Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Paramount City Council meeting of February 14th, 2023. Tonight, we will have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Dr. Linda Timmons and Michaela Hawkins from the Unity in the Community, and prayer will be given by Pastor Ray Motan with the Saint of Joseph Jacob United Church of God in Christ. Please stand for the pledge and remain standing for the prayer. Thank you.
Hello. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Good evening. Would you bow with me in prayer as we go to the throne of grace? Our Father, first let me say thank you for life itself, for health and the grace we need to fulfill our callings. Thank you on behalf of all who have gathered here today. Heavenly Father, we come to you today seeking your guidance and support as we begin this meeting. Thank you for the many and abundant blessings you have given this city and community. We pray for our mayor, for the council, and the various levels of city officials, for law enforcement and public safety. We thank you for these trusted servants. We pray for unity and ask your blessings upon them. Father, in consideration of the agenda set before the council today, the merits and possible pitfalls of each item before them, we pray that the decisions made and actions taken be in accordance with what is best for the community and in accordance with your will. We ask for wisdom to use resources wisely to promote the common good for all concerned. We pray for everyone gathered here this evening. We pray for the businesses, the people of this community. We trust and thank you for your help in accomplishing this goal. And let us all say amen.
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 Thank you. Heidi, may I have roll call of council members, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Delgadillo.
Present.
Councilmember Lemons.
Here.
Councilmember Olmos.
Here.
Vice Mayor Aguayo.
Here.
Mayor Claire Stallings.
Here.
All present.
Thank you. We'll begin tonight's meeting with some special presentations. Would my colleagues please join me at the podium? Thank you. Good evening, everyone, again. Tonight, we're recognizing some special members of the Paramount community. Will Dr. Timmons and Michaela please come back up? Dr. Timmons is a member of the Unity in the Community, a nonprofit organization in town. The group engages in Paramount residents in conversations about race while looking for positive solutions to these sometimes difficult issues. Michaela, who is the president of the Black Student Union at Paramount High School, was a member of the youth seminar that Unity held at the high school. Thank you both for the Pledge of Allegiance. Let's take a photo, and afterwards, can you please stay with us for the next presentation? Thank you.
Linda, on this side, can we balance it out? Oh, we're gonna do that for the next presentation.
Oh.
Linda, can I get you on this side so we can balance it out?
Sure.
Mayor's right in the middle.
All right, here we go. And we'll take two on the count of two. One and two. And one more, please. One and two. Thank you.
Thank you.
So go ahead and stay here.
Come this way. Okay. Tonight, we are proclaiming February as Black History Month in Paramount. Will any other board members of the Unity in the Community please come up? And will Anaya Tayshawn, Akeisha, and Surai. Please come up. These young people are addition members of the Black Student Union, and Ms. Brooks is a club advisor. Black History Month pays tribute to the generations of African Americans who struggle with adversity to achieve full citizenship in American society. It begins as a Negro History Week in 1925 and was expanded to a month in 1976. February was chosen since it features the birthdays of both Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln. Black History Month highlights the vast achievements and contributions made by African Americans. It notes their profound impact on society, in politics, in science, industry, culture, and much more. This year's theme is Resistance, featuring historic Black barbers who resisted the status quo by supporting Black education and civil rights movements. It is our honor to take part in this recognition. Would any of you like to say a few words, please?
On behalf of all Paramount High School students from BSU, we would like to thank Paramount City Council for the acknowledgement of Black History Month and Black history in general. Our people are an important part of the American success story, so thank you.
Can I diddle that? Well, first of all, we thank God for the opportunity to bring these young people together and to unify our community as a group of people. As we have a motto, we are one, which embraces the whole city of Paramount, the whole unified school district. And again, we're trying to work out things that young people deal with, so know how to face the future. But it's a blessing to have been chosen to lead this group, and we started in 2016. We're trying to grow more and more into each school in the city. But again, we need your support from the community to help us embrace the community idea. We all are one. So we praise God for the Unity Committee. And again, we look for big and better things this year. A few weeks ago, we were able to go with some students to the Museum of Tolerance. And it was a wonderful experience to see things that happened in our past. We don't hear about, see too much. But again, all of us have gone through something. This country is full of immigrants. All of us are immigrants from somewhere. But how we unify ourselves makes all the difference. With God's grace, we're going to be a better city.
Let's take a photo. Yes, sir.
Let's have you hold the proclamation. This is for your organization because you spoke. And you're the head of you. All right, so we're going to come up here. So, Mayor, the council, can you get on the top row again? And then Chris will figure out how everybody else goes.
Oh, thank you, David.
I'm going to ask you to step over just a little bit to your right. To the right, so I got to see where it's up here. There you go. That little turn. That's perfect. You know how to do this. Okay, everybody on this side, do what she did. Just kind of do that little 45-degree turn. And I can't see you. Can you step up? Yeah. Chris, how's that working?
I think that's looking good.
Yeah, see everybody?
I think, yes, indeed. Okay, we'll take two on the count of two, please. 1 and 2. And one more. 1 and 2. Thank you.
Okay. Now for this Mayor's Award of Excellence. Will Norma Parra please join us? Our city has a history of volunteers helping out in many special events and community programs. One place that offers consistent volunteer opportunities is the Senior Center. One person who's always there to lend a hand is Norma. She serves meals at the center, always, literally every day it's open. She's available to do whatever she is asked, and always with a smile, a positive attitude, and a generous nature. She is a definition of unselfishness, person who just wants to help. Beyond that, Norma supports the city by attending all our special community events. I mean, all of them. I've danced with her many times at the city concerts, and it's my pleasure, my honor, to present this month's award to you, Norma. David, do you have anything to add to this, please?
Give you the word first.
Oh, my goodness.
And because Norma exhibits that recreation spirit, I have most of the community services team here to present Norma with a gift card and some flowers because it's Valentine's Day.
Thank you. Thank you for everything that you do. My pleasure and honor.
Come on.
Thank you so much.
I promise I'm not.
Dancing with us. Hello, mamita.
And we also have a few seniors from who are involved in the senior community also present.
Oh, my goodness. What?
Can you say a few words? You want to say a few words, and then we'll take a picture.
Oh. Hi. I'm Norma Parra. I've been here since I was 13 years old in Paramount. And it's become my city. And that's how I treat it. With respect, love, smiles, and as the Father, we're one. We are one. And my Heavenly Father knows that. We are one. And I am so honored and surprised, shocked. And I've known all of you almost for the longest time. I've known you. I forgot to hug, but I know. But I do what I do because I love it. I love it. I would never fail to show up anywhere. Never. My mom almost had to call me because I was running a little late. That's what I call her. I can't call her Mac. No, it's always ma'am. Always ma'am. But I'm thankful. I'm grateful. And I'm very, very honored. And just thank you.
Oh, Sam, I didn't mean that.
Somebody got
Come on, let's take a picture.
Norma?
Needs tissue. My mom needs tissue.
Magda needs a tissue. Magda needs tissue?
My
You
mom
need
needs
tissue?
tissue.
It's not Magda, it's Mammoth.
So do you want first?
Magda, we're gonna take a picture with Norma first, then we'll go right. Well, that's the second photo. So let's get this shot first. And council, on this side, can you tighten it up a little bit? There you go.
Alrighty, here we go. On 2, 1, and 2. And one more, please. 1 and 2. Thank you.
Now, community services team? 'Cause I know you love photos. I'm never in photos.
brother dancer, so. I love it.
92 years young.
Yeah.
Thank you, Norma. Thank you.
Put him.
No dancing required. Okay, I think we're all set. Here we go. 1 and 2. Please, 1 and 2. Thank you. Thank you.
Come on, don't make it too My hug, my hug. Did I hug you already? I'll take another one. My pleasure.
Okay. Would Dr. John Blake and Dr. Karen Burns of the Children's Dental Health Clinic please come up? Tonight, we are also proclaiming February as National Children's Dental Health Month. This is the American Dental Association annual observance to publicize the benefits of good oral health for children. This year's slogan is brush, floss, and smile. We are giving our proclamation to the Children's Dental Health Clinic. They are a nonprofit that provides dental services to our young residents who may have trouble getting access to such care. They are a great resource to our community. And I want to say, I've known about this organization for over 40 years. And I was so honored when I worked for PUSD, Paramount Unified School District. I was able to take some parents with their young children to receive dental services at this dental clinic. And I want to thank you in behalf of those students. Thank you for providing those services. And would you like to say a few words, please?
Well, thank you, and wow, tough to follow such worthy recipients, first two. So anyway, yes, I'm kind of like the buzzkill now. It's like, but Dental Health Month is important. Heads attached to the body, and what we do with cleanliness in the mouth definitely affects body health. So just keep that in mind. And it's just so awesome. Last time I saw this group was on the Santa train, which was like really awesome. So anyway, I love Paramount. The children we work with from Paramount have a broad spectrum of issues, from just normal kids to those that really need specialized services, and it's just an honor to work with the city. So thank you.
Up here, but one or the other.
That concludes our presentations for tonight. Thank you to everyone who has joined us and all of you who make Paramount strong. Will my colleagues join me back at the dais? Okay, here we go. Next, we'll move on to the business portion of the agenda. Mr. City Manager, are there any public comment updates from our last city council meeting, sir?
Yes, Madam Mayor, we do have one. It's from, once as you mentioned, the January 24th, 2023 City Council meeting. The public commenter at that time was Mr. Alejandro Yanez, and his complaint was that a city staff report from March of 2021 regarding an analysis and community interest in handball, he claimed was discriminatory towards him, and he accused city staff of calling him names in the report. As an after action for that, Mr. Yanez's account of the substance of the staff report is erroneous. A copy of the report can be found at ParamountCity.com by searching agendas and meetings from March 16th, 2021. And that concludes the public comment updates from the January 24th City Council meeting.
Thank you, sir. Now is the time members of the public may comment on items that are not on the agenda. John, are there any speaker cards this evening, sir?
Yes, Madam Mayor, we do have one in person. Ms. Tracy Ragland from Severn Drive would like to discuss a complaint. Madam Mayor, there's somebody in the audience asking if there's a possible addition of the public comment period.
Yes, ma'am. You need to fill out a yellow card, please.
There will be a staff member handing you one.
Thank you.
Okay, good evening. Happy Thanksgiving. My name is Tracy Ragland. I've been a resident of the city of Paramount for the last 23 years, residing at 6842 Severn Drive, Paramount, California. I'm here to represent the residents and myself, where there is a gentleman that resides at the beginning of the cul-de-sac that has started a mechanic business in fixing cars approximately 4 years ago. There have been numerous complaints, whereas it is now in the hands of the city attorney, John Kavanaugh, where they sent warnings, citations, and yet this young man continues to ignore the request. Recently, this young man has started up again. And again, I'm here to advocate for myself and also the residents on that cul-de-sac, because again, this has been a continuous problem. They continue to address it, but nothing is getting done. And because it's a small cul-de-sac, when you come in, you always come in contact with either cars, trailers, or whatever the case might be. I spoke with John Kavanaugh this afternoon and asked him what was the process. He said all they can do is continue to give this man citations, but it's been over 4 years. He have cars parked on his property. It's just bringing a nuisance to our community. Not only that, it's affecting me because I want to sell my house at this time, and it's lowering the property values of our property. And so now I'm here to advocate to see what the city can actually do, because this is an ongoing problem, and it don't seem like anything is happening. And he continued to ignore the request of taking the business somewhere else. So that's why I'm here.
Yes, ma'am. John?
Mr. Kavanaugh?
Yeah, I will defer also with the public safety director on this, so we've been working on it. We've been speaking with Ms. Ragland, and we certainly understand and are very sensitive to her complaint. She's been very patient with this individual. We try to address the issue during the day when we're out there. The public safety director is in charge of getting code enforcement and also the CSOs out there to do it. But this individual does play games and tries to do things when resources are not available or they're late at night. So it's been a battle going back and forth. We're taking her complaint very seriously. We understand her, and I've been in communication with Ms. Ragland for some time, and we're trying to do the best we can on this. I think we did have somebody go out today And there was a trailer out there, and it was cited. And then there were some cars that were parked on the grass, which are going to be cited. And what we're going to do is just hopefully, and with the public safety director's blessing on this, to increase the enforcement on this on a daily basis, so that this individual can at least get the message that we're going to be there almost every day. We're going to try. What's difficult too is this individual evidently tries to do some of this work at night when code enforcement is not there and the CSOs are not always there. And we're going to try to see if we can figure that out with the public safety director, maybe having deputies go out there and check out if there what activity is, to come back and then do a series of enforcements on there. But this individual obviously knows what is happening, and it's getting him in the act to establish a pattern so that we can take the next level, which is more serious.
I have a question.
Yes.
Go ahead. So do we have a time frame on this, or kind of what we're looking at? So we're going to meet with public safety. Is there like a time frame for this?
Well,
or?
we started today
Okay.
with the CSOs going out there. There was a trailer there. It was cited. Obviously, if it's there in another 48 hours, it's going to be towed. The cars that are on the grass, we're going to go out there on a daily basis starting today and then cite this individual for those cars. What we're going to try to do as well is look at some of the cars that Ms. Ragland talks about. We don't know if they belong to the homeowner or they belong to other individuals, but we're going to try to get registration information on those vehicles as well to establish whether or not they belong to that person or not, and then take enforcement action after that.
And also, it's my understanding too, if I may, the case was actively being worked on. The gentleman stopped.
Yes.
And as Ms. Ragland said, he started back up again. So previously it went through the code enforcement process. It got to the city prosecutor's office, which is the very last step before we actually go to court on it. So it did go the distance, and then he ceased operations for I don't know how long, a few months maybe, and then it started back up as Ms. Ragland had mentioned. So now we got to start the process all over again.
But let me say this. It didn't actually, I mean, it seemed like he stopped, but he never stopped, because he would do it in the wee hours where no one was around to see. It might happen at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. He was even doing it at 3 o'clock in the morning. So it never, ever stopped. And what he's doing is playing cat and mouse games. Even today, like John said that, they came out, they cited it as I was coming here. There were people out there, they were working as I'm speaking, and it's a continuous problem. And I've been here for a long period of time, and I'm sick of it. And I've done everything in my power to stop it. I started calling enforcement officers. It went from them to John Kavanaugh. And it seemed like he's just, it's like he's not stopping. It's been 4 years. Come on now. How long does it take? If it was in any other neighborhood, it would have been nipped in the bud just that fast. And it's bringing destruction to the community there. It's a cul-de-sac. It's a small street. It's not even that big. And yet, there's nothing being done. You keep giving them citations. You keep threatening them, you're going to do this and that. But you know what? Where do we go from here? Where do we go?
Ma'am, what the city attorney just mentioned, that we're going to start going on a daily basis. So you should be able to see our presence on a daily basis. And we will be on top of this, correct, John?
Yes.
And we are going to be on top of it. So if you have any more concerns, you can probably give Maggie, can you give her your card? And you can call her back directly if you see any type of activity. Is that correct, Maggie?
I even know who Maggie is. Before getting to him, I was dealing with her.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
But this is what we're gonna be doing at this time, ma'am, to help you, to assist you.
I just, I want to add something, because I see how frustrated you are.
I am.
And I understand that frustration. One thing I want to assure you of is that
it isn't any different anywhere else in my neighborhood. I had a very similar situation, and it took 3 years for it to actually get to court, the process they were talking about, because unfortunately there is a legal process that we're responsible for, we're held to. They have to have so many citations, they have to have so many warnings before you can open a code enforcement case. Then there's so many warnings before they go to court. And hopefully, if it gets to that process again, or before it gets thrown out, sometimes we've had the situation where it got before the judge after we did everything we were supposed to, and the judge threw it out. So there's no guarantees, but the court is the end result of where we have to go. So please hang in there. I feel you. I understand it took me 3 years to get the situation cleared up in my neighborhood. The interesting thing is what Mr. Moreno told you. That last time they got all the way through all of the steps we had to take, ready to go into court, and then he paused. So this is a cookie that knows what he's doing.
Absolutely.
But fortunately, I think that what you're hearing is they know that now. So they're going to take extraordinary steps. So hopefully you've made us aware, the city attorney's aware. We're going to put forth our ever best effort to do that. But please understand that hopefully if we can catch him this time, if he doesn't shut down, there's still the process of getting to court. And unfortunately, we have no control over that. It has to go through those steps before the judge will hear it. And then it's in the judge's hands whether or not to, what they do sometimes is they, prosecute them. Sometimes there's jail time, sometimes there's fines. It's all in the judge's hands. But we are going to make an extra effort knowing what he's doing, how he's playing the system in your neighborhood to try to catch him, to get those sites on the record that we have to have in order to proceed with the code enforcement.
Okay, I appreciate that. I'm just trying to, at this point, sell my house, but I can't sell it with all this going on because it's bringing the property value down because I'm over it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to move somewhere where, the people are working together, Calabasas, but at the same time, I need to be able to sell my house, and with all this going on.
Maybe we just don't want you to go.
Well, I mean, that might be so, but I'm at a point where I'm ready anyway, and so, but at the same time, I'm just here advocating for myself and the residents that's for whatever reason, maybe be intimidated, scared, I'm not. So that's why I'm here.
We will as you've heard, you have a lot of commitment here right now watching it.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Well, I
coming
really
again.
appreciate it. And I appreciate all your service, John, as well, because I have been communicating back and forth with him, and I know he only can do so much. So I do appreciate your assistance in taking care of this matter, and hopefully it'll be resolved soon.
Yes.
And I have Maggie's phone number, so it's okay. But thank you for hearing, and hopefully it'll be taken care of soon.
We hope so too.
Okay, have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Madam Mayor, the next speaker is Ms. Bella De Soto. She'd like to discuss with the City Council rent control for Paramount.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, honorable City Council members. I have been an activist many years. I'm turning 70 very soon. My mom is over 93 years of age. There's a reason why I'm going through this now. I found a location for my mother a little bit over over 12 years ago here in Paramount, because I thought that Paramount was offering kind of a tranquil, quaint environment for her, and she came from Long Beach. We are from the Dominican Republic via New York City. She lived in Queens many years. I lived in Manhattan many years. Then I moved to Tucson, Arizona. Then I relocated here to Los Angeles. I have a sister in Los Angeles. I have 2 brothers in Texas. Okay, the issue is rent control. Rent control affect all of us. Adjoining cities to Paramount have been adopting rent control. It began with Santa Monica some years ago. It has spread. There's a reason for rent control, and that is to keep a gauge on the extreme hiking of rentals. My mother rents a nice lower level apartment whether it's underpriced, overpriced, it is going up every year. My mother, as myself, when I moved with my mother, because our society is not ready to deal with caregivers like myself, I had to put my life on hold. For 7 years, I have not been able to earn any funds as a bookkeeper because I cannot even have a desk at my mom's space. But I'm there to take care of her, make sure that her longevity is prolonged as long as possible. Why? Because she brought me into this world. And for that, I feel I have that responsibility. It's very difficult for me. I put my life on hold. I put all my possessions in storage to take care of my mother. But my mother has been pushed out of Paramount. My mother's over 93 years of age as of September 10 of this this year. And so it is very difficult for me for us to pick up and go and move and relocate somewhere else. I am urging this body to consider seriously how to maintain the equilibrium that is needed for a small city, a quaint city, which I appreciate very much as Paramount, and to do the right thing for its neighbors, for its residents, because not all of us can afford to purchase a home. So I am urging this body to consider rent control in your wisdom to serve the community of Paramount. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, John. Do we have any more cards?
No, Madam Mayor, we do not.
Okay. Next, we'll move on to the consent calendar. May I have approval of the consent calendar?
Move Lemons. Second Aguayo.
Heidi, may I have roll call, please?
Councilmember Delgadillo?
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons?
Yes.
Councilmember Olmos?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Aguayo?
Yes.
Mayor Quer Stallings?
Yes. Next is an update from the Paramount Lions Club. John, will you please introduce the presenter, sir?
Absolutely, Madam Mayor. We started a tradition of asking our partners at the various service organizations and service clubs to come and present to the City Council and to the public about what their organization does to help our community. Last month, we had the opportunity to hear from the Paramount Women's Club, and this month we'll be hearing from the Paramount Lions Club. So with us tonight is Mr. Viviano Favela from the Paramount Lions Club. Hi, Viv.
Thank you, John. Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council, and all the wonderful Paramount staff. And I say wonderful because I've had the pleasure to be able to ask for help for most of the staff here and have conversations with them. And we have a great community, and I just wanted to thank you as a staff, all the city workers and Parks and Rec for everything that you've done for us in helping the community and the Paramount Lions Club. So our Paramount Lions Club, we've been around since 1947. And one of your city staff helped me with the slide. So we've been around since 1947. We were established in the cities of Hines, Clearwater, and Hollandale. And we got our charter in 1947, making us 76 just about 15, 20 days ago. So we meet twice a month, and our vision or our calling to the community is to help youth and help people with vision. Eyes. So the couple of things that we do that are big in our motto is to serve, is to actually give back to the community with our vision assistance programs, our Lions iMobiles, and helping the youth. So I want to stop the slide for a second, and I do want to mention that the city lets us have a fireworks stand every year. And we're not here to discuss that, but thanks again for that fireworks stand, because the money that we raise at this fireworks stand actually gets dispersed back into the community. The majority of it goes back to the schools, baseball teams. It goes back to the Leo's Club, the Student Speech and Debate Club, and however we can get it back into the community. So a few of the things that we've done with that money in the last few years is, for instance, you see on the slide up here, we have the toy drive that just came up. So thanks to the City of Paramount Parks and Recs, or Community Service Department, I believe it's called now, we were able to donate 3 Christmas trees to 5 families. There was a few families living all in one home. And we held a toy drive and had the student speech and debate team come in here and help us wrap these Christmas gifts. And then we went and delivered these Christmas trees and toys to the communities, to those families the very next day. The following day after that, we went to a food bank, grabbed a bunch of food, and brought it to these needy families. There's a lot of families out there in the communities that actually can't drive to a food bank. They don't have a car to get there. And we just realized that. So one of the things that we're trying to do in the next year is figure out how to bring more food out to these families that can't drive to a food bank. So there being lots of food bank, if you can't drive up to it, it doesn't do them any good. So the Vision Assistance Program that we talked about is a program that we partner up with the school district, where the school district knows and shares with their students through the nursing department that we have a program. It's the Vision program, where we actually help pay the bills. We help buy glasses, and we actually helped out one student with a severe case of keratoconus, which is over a $2,000 bill. In partnership with Paramount Family Optometry, we were able to help that student get her surgery because it's a very rare condition. We have made various donations in the last year to the high school baseball team, the Leos Club, and as I mentioned, the Student Speech and Debate Club. We also have scholarships that we're rolling out again this year. Besides donating to PEP and other local organizations, we're rolling out 4 $500 scholarships this year that are community citizenship based. Actually, we're requiring the students to give us a lot of service hours in the community to be eligible for these scholarships. Part of the Student Speech and Debate team, because they go out there, they asked us for a letter. They actually asked us to help them come up with a way to get new blazers, new uniforms. So our Paramount Student Speech and Debate team goes out to other communities, and they've been competing with communities from Seal Beach or Huntington Beach or wherever, and they don't have these nice blazers. So this Paramount Lions Club just donated $1,500 so they can get themselves a nice uniform so they can be presentable at these events. So that's one of the biggest things that we do with Student Speaker Contest and the Student Speech and Debate team is that we have the Student Speaker Contest that is basically to stimulate self-expression and independent thinking on various topics that are relevant to society at the time. This year, I believe we've reached out and invited most city council members, if not everyone, to our Student Speaker Contest on February 21st. If not, we'll try to get an email out to city manager or John to see if we can share that with you guys. It will be February 21st at the Clearwater Building at lunchtime. And this year's topic is social media. Does it connect us or isolate us? We hope that you guys can come out and support us at our fireworks stand so we can turn that money around and bring it back to the community through the various programs that we have. There's a lot of school programs that we actually help out. In the last couple of years since COVID, it's got a little slow, so get the word out there. All we need is a letter, we need a request, and then we will be happy to help you guys out. We have the high school baseball team, Leo's team, Canines Companions for Independence. That's a program that actually we sponsor a dog for the blind. And then we also help out that foundation with a small donation every year. It's for the same organization and the Foundation for the Junior Blind. We'll donate money to the Friends of the Library and so forth and so on. We meet the first and the third weeks of the month in the evening at the Paramount Elks Lodge at 6:30. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can find us on Google. Just Google the Paramount Lions Club. And I'd be happy to answer any questions, or if I missed anything. I just want to say thank you to everybody for having us here, and we're happy to serve the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Do my colleagues have any comments or questions?
No. Good job.
Good job.
Thank you.
Okay, next is the Sheriff's Department will present the 2022 Annual Uniform Crime Report. John, will you please introduce our presenter?
I'd be delighted to, Madam Mayor. Every year we review with you the crime statistics from the previous year and compare them to the year before that. In this case, 2022 is compared with 2021, which is considered a pandemic year. And because of that, many in the law enforcement community don't feel that comparing these 2 years gives us an accurate depiction as to what is normal when it comes to crime rates. However, in any case, since that's how crime levels are measured, We'll be reviewing this comparison in the following presentation. We're honored to have with us tonight the captain of the Lakewood Sheriff Station, Captain Dan Holguin, who will handle the presentation. Hi, Captain.
Hi, good evening. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Thank you, Mayor Coyal Stallings, member of the council. I'm happy to be here to provide this report. And on behalf of the department and the deputies and professional staff serving the proud city of Paramount, I am pleased to have the opportunity to provide this report. This 2022 annual crime report will pertain to the Uniform Crime Reporting Program, which collects data of reported violent and property crimes in the nation, and they are classified as Part 1 crimes. These include violent crimes consisting of homicide, rape, robbery, and aggravated assaults, along with property crimes to include burglary, grand theft auto, theft, and arson. In 2022, we had an overall Part 1 crime increase of 5% when compared to 2021. We had 1,638 incidents in 2021 compared to 1,723 last year. It's important to keep in mind that this increase can be attributed to comparing crimes from a typical year of 2021, where we had a record crime decrease due to the pandemic and the zero bail program the first half of the year in 2022, which contributed to us have repeat offenders, specifically pertaining to burglaries and thefts. Our neighboring cities within our area in LA County have seen double-digit crime increases. Our city in Paramount has one of the lowest crime increase when compared to the surrounding cities. Also, if you compare 2022 to a more typical traditional year of 2017, we still maintain a decrease of 12% in Part 1 crimes, which is good news. So the first, we're going to go over crimes against persons. Crimes against persons, we had an overall increase of 14%. We had 270 in 2021 compared to 309 last year. Our first category is homicides. There was no change. We had 4 in 2021. We had 4 in 2022. Rapes, there was a 5% increase from 19 to 20 last year. Of the 20 that we had last year, 18 were known suspects, and 15 occurred several years prior. However, they were reported in the year of 2022. Next, we have our aggravated assaults. This was a 9% increase from 159 to 174 last year. Keep in mind, these are counted per each victim and not per incident. So one assault can yield several victims, depending on the case. Also, research revealed that the victims and suspects often knew each other, whether it be a spouse, acquaintance, a neighbor, or classmates. Of these aggravated assaults, 44 victims, or 25%, were domestic violence related. Next we have is our robberies. Our robberies seen the highest increase of these crimes against persons at 26%. There were 88 robberies in 2021, and we had 111 last year. More than 50% of these robberies were strong arm robberies. The majority of these robberies were aggravated shoplifting incidents where the suspect used force or fear to facilitate the theft. Oftentimes, there were no injuries to any of the victims during these strong arm robberies. Next, we have crimes against property. In crimes against property, we had an overall increase of 3%. We had 1,368 in 2021 compared to 1,414 last year. Burglary showed a significant increase of 23%. We had 149 occurring in 2021 compared to 183 last year. 56 were residential and 127 were commercial. Several of our commercial burglaries occurred during the early morning hours, usually from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. And part of this increase can be attributed to the zero bail program in the beginning of the year, where suspects were arrested for either a theft or burglary, immediately released on a citation, and continue to commit more burglaries. Next, we have our theft. There was a 10% increase of theft, where we had 600 in 2021 compared to 729 last year. Our auto thefts, there was a decrease of 11%. We had 552 in 2021 compared to 491 last year. This is a great decrease based on our surrounding cities that we have in our area. Everyone had a higher increase on the auto thefts. So our 11% is real good, minus 11%. Next, we have our arsons, which you see a 57% decrease. Obviously, the lower the number, even 2 or 3 is going to make it up higher. So we had 7 in 2021 and 11 last year. There is no pattern of these arsons. They're spread out. Several were related to transients, trash fires, or automobile fires. Next, we're going to go to our calls for service. The calls for service remained almost the same. We had 18,266 in 2021 compared to 18,290 last year, which is an increase of 24, which is basically 0.0013%. We remain the same on the calls for service. Our 911 calls decreased by 11%, from 512 from 2021 to 456 last year. And our regular calls remain relatively the same, from 17,754 in 2021 to 17,834 last year. I want to talk about the response times. Our calls for service are categorized in between 3 incidents: routine, priority, and emergent. Routine incidents are calls that are non-priority in nature, usually report calls that do not require an immediate response. Priority incidents are those requiring an immediate response, but not a code 3 response. Emergent incidents are anything requiring a code 3 response, and these would include felonies in progress, life-threatening incidents, or traffic collisions with injuries. As you can see, all 3 categories show an increase. Routine calls had a 7.5% increase, meaning that it took us a little longer to get there. With 46, last year was 46.9 minutes, and I'm sorry, 2021 was 46.9. This year was 50.4 minutes. Priority calls had a 9.7% increase, where 2021 we were responding to 9.7 minutes. In 2022, we responded to 10.7. And our emergent calls had a 9.1% increase. 2021, we responded within 3.3 minutes, and in 2022, we responded 3.6 minutes. The department thresholds for the responses are 60 minutes for routine, 20 minutes for priority, and 10 minutes for emergency. Even though we are below that threshold, there is a current concern that these response times are increasingly in the last 10 years. At the direction of the city manager, a more thorough analysis will be conducted. We're going to find the root cause of the problem and implement more strategies to improve these times responses. We will go with the arrests for 2022. Our arrests seen a 15% decrease. We had 1,158 in 2021 compared to 984 last year. This correlates with our observation statistics. Observations are proactive, self-initiated activities by our deputies. In 2021, we had 22,229, and last year we had 19,439, which is about a 12% decrease. Part of the decrease may be attributed to my direction of promoting community policing and providing better customer service to our residents. Oftentimes, deputy goes to a call with urgency to quickly handle these calls and then go to the next call. I instructed them to be a little more empathetic, listen to our residents, slow things down, provide solutions and concerns, and listen to what the residents actually need. Ultimately, we want to build relationships and trust within our residents. However, Lieutenant Morales and I, we're going to monitor these arrests, and we're going to balance the quality of life issues with assertive, proactive policing. In closing, I want to thank you. I think 2023 is going to be a great year. I want to thank the mayor, city council, the city manager, the entire public safety team, and for their continued leadership, partnership, and support, providing me and my staff with the necessary resources to provide the best service for this great city of Paramount. Thank you and God bless, and I can answer any questions if need be.
Any of my colleagues have any questions or comments?
I have a question,
Yes,
Captain. I recently experienced an issue on a party patrol car, party patrol call, and the process that happened at the time I called was the first call was recorded and the second call wasn't recorded as a call for service because I was told because it was the same address, it was considered a duplicate call, therefore it wasn't recorded as a call for service. Which way should that be happening?
Depending on the time difference, what happens is when we have a call of a party call at a certain location and we get a second call from a different resident or the same resident, if we haven't responded yet, we put a comment, second call, third call, especially if it's within minutes or within 15 to 20 minutes. However, if it's after the fact within that 45 minutes, then the proper way probably would be to put it another call.
To place it as a call. So you're saying if it comes in within minutes, you don't document it as a call. You consider it a duplicate, but if it's about an hour, it's considered a second call.
Correct. I think timing is the main issue. We still document that a second person called in the narrative. We can put more instructions in the narrative. This is the second call. Or there's 3 callers already on this call. That specifically happens when, like traffic accidents, when there's 4 people calling, different people or people see the accident, they all call. We can say 3 or 4 calls generated, but there was only 1 call.
So in my particular case, the calls were an hour apart, so it should have been recorded as a second call, but it wasn't. But the other issue that I would bring to light is dependent upon what type of call it is, that makes sense. For instance, a traffic call, like you said, if there's an accident, 3 or 4 or 5 people call in. But in specific issues in the city where we issue citations, and a lot of that is based upon the number of complaints and the number of calls that come in, if everyone isn't recorded, it doesn't allow us to properly cite the homeowner or to track the calls. So what I learned from that experience is I've had many times over the years where residents have told me, I called, and then they go back and they check the log and they said, no, just one call came in. And they'll go, no, here's my cell phone. I called. And we're like, well, what's going on here? So you're kind of questioning whether, because that's what we instruct them to do.
Right.
Please call, please have your neighbors call. So I just think that the directive has to be based upon what the call is for, because I certainly understand you not maybe wanting to document multiple cars on a car accident. Although in some cases, like street racing, if 20 calls come in, 20 calls should be documented, because it doesn't give us a good gauge as a city council as to how responsive the residents are being, and if we're getting the information out there when you say only 1 person called. But no, 20 people did their job. So now we have a different issue to deal with. So the record's not reflecting the truth of what's happening, and that's causing us problems on our end. So I'd like you to take that into consideration.
Absolutely, I will. Absolutely. Thank you.
You mentioned that we have some of the lowest percentages comparing us to surrounding cities.
Correct.
I'm curious, is there anything that our station here in Paramount is doing that other cities aren't, or vice versa for our numbers being so low? Because, we talk to our colleagues in other cities and then they're like, it's so busy. And we know you guys are super busy.
Right.
But as I look at these numbers and, they seem lower than previous years. So what is it? Is there that magic word or program?
No, it's the support you provide. Like you said, you have a party call. You have all these extra patrols out there that you see, residents see it, criminals see all this proactiveness in the city, so they tend not to hang out in the city. The criminals, so they see that the support that you provide us is really helping, and the extra patrol cars that are coming out.
So extra patrol cars.
Like the specialized cars.
Specialized
cars, yeah.
Maybe you're talking about like our street racing ordinances or stuff like that. Is that,
Yes.
That's what's making it more proactive.
Yes, obviously, any more calls additional to the contracted cars.
Yeah.
The more deputies that are out there, the more visibility that is. So it does prevent crime. And not all cities are doing that.
We have a pretty robust overtime budget, right, Captain? That so we're able to field more cars. So when you see what our baseline deployment is, that's just showing how many cars we have. But on top of that, we hire a lot of overtime in specific hours. So that's the beauty of contracting
Right.
with the sheriff's department, is that you can add, overtime where it's needed and when it's needed, so.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay. We'll continue with the public safety reports. Next, we'll hear the results of the 2022 Public Safety Resident Satisfaction Survey. John, may we have the report, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Also, every year, we review with you the results of a survey of residents that we do every year for decades on the level of satisfaction they had with the service they received from the public safety personnel. And this includes both sworn county staff and non-sworn city staff. So with that, I'll turn it over to Maggie Matson, our Public Safety Director, who will walk you through the item. Maggie?
Thank you, John. Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. As John mentioned, I will be providing you with an overview of our 2022 Public Safety Resident Satisfaction Survey. As a way of background, Public Safety started collecting survey data of routine law enforcement and public safety services in 1997. We hope the In the Line of Duty report gives City Council a good understanding of the service quality that is being provided to Paramount residents. Each day, staff conducts quality assurance phone calls. Calls are randomly selected. It is important to note that staff does not reach out to anyone who has been a victim of an aggravated incident. 2 calls are made during the day shift and 2 calls are made during the evening shift. The information collected is then entered into a database so that we can extract the information for this annual review. The calls we place are scripted for consistency, and we ask a total of 5 questions. Each party is asked to rate the service provided by dispatch staff, the response time, the service provided by the handling deputy or community service officer, and to give the impression of the overall services. For the last question, the residents are asked if they were provided with a citizen satisfaction survey form, which is in addition to our survey. For the first 4 questions, the responses are limited to very satisfied, satisfied, dissatisfied, or indifferent. The last question is simply a yes or no response. Here are the results of the survey rating for 2022. The overall rating, which we consider to be the most important, is a combined score of 98.9 for the dispatch, the response time, the reporting officer, and when you combine the results, residents believe that our services are satisfying or very satisfied. Our goal is to measure and evaluate the data to ensure that public safety is providing quality customer service. Based on the overall rating for the past 5 years, public safety is pleased to note that we continue to positively meet the needs of the community. I am happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Do my colleagues have any comments or questions? Thank you, Maggie. Our last oral report will be on the 2022 year-end summary for our planning department. John, may we have the report, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Another area of the city that we like to update you on an annual basis is the planning department. Lots of the activity that occurs in this department has a really direct impact on the lives of our residents and businesses. So it's really important to see and hear how the employees in this department function and how they handle service. So with that, I'll turn it over to our planning director, Mr. John Carver, who will handle this item. John?
Well, thank you, John. Madam Mayor and council members. In the planning department, we have the building and safety division, the planning division, and we also handle housing. In the building and safety division, a total of 1,137 permits were issued and 3,669 inspections were performed in 2022. Also, an electric vehicle permitting ordinance was adopted per state law. We implemented a streamlined permitting process. We offered more online options, and we implemented virtual inspections for a limited number of projects. In the planning division, we processed 61 applications for home additions. We also reviewed 8 development review applications, 11 conditional use permits, 3 filming permits, 3 zoning ordinance amendments, 2 zone changes, 2 general plan amendments, and 1 tentative parcel map. A total of 19 single-family homes were constructed, 10 on Alondra near Home Depot, 8 at the northwest corner of Indiana and Somerset, and 1 at 15944 Orizaba. It was a busy year for accessory dwelling units. 50 permits were issued for ADUs in 2022, with 35 ADUs completed. We also completed a how-to video on ADUs that is available on the city's website and YouTube page. And finally, we worked on pre-approved plans for ADUs, which will be available this spring. Projects under construction include the Kentucky Fried Chicken on Alondra Boulevard, the Tierra Mia Coffee on Downey and Rosecrans, and the self-storage facility on Minnesota south of Alondra. The housing element was certified by the state in 2022. This is a big deal, as we were one of the first cities in the Gateway region to have a state-certified housing element. Also, certain state funding is dependent on a city having a certified housing element. The North Paramount Gateway Specific Plan was approved by the council in 2021. We began working on the environmental impact report in 2022 for this plan, which is located on Paramount Boulevard, north of Rosecrans Avenue. 4 federally funded home improvement projects were completed in 2022, and the council added mobile homes to this program when the 2023 budget was approved. You will be awarding a contract for our first mobile home improvement project at your meeting on February 28th. The City Council's Small Business Assistance Grant Program was designed to bring much-needed relief to Paramount businesses that were negatively affected by the pandemic. This program was funded with federal ARPA funds. The program was heavily promoted through the city's website, social media. Calls were placed to active home occupation business license holders, as well as in-person contact with over 100 small businesses. The program received 74 applications, of which 40 were approved, and awarded grants ranging from $7,500 to $20,000 for a total of $672,500. The World Energy Conversion Project got underway in 2022, and thus far we have issued 63 permits for this 3-year project. The sound wall on the north side of the refinery, adjacent to the Cinderella Mobile Home Park, is complete, and a new lab building received Development Review Board approval just recently. This is a program under Paramount Paints that will see a mural painted on the rear of 8026 Alondra Boulevard and 2 adjacent block walls to the rear of 2 residential properties to the south. We have put out a call for artists and expect to have the proposal before the Development Review Board on April 5th. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
My colleagues have any comments or questions? No. Okay, we'll move on to the next item. Our next item is a public hearing on an ordinance adopting Los Angeles County Health and Safety Code. John, may we have the report, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Items number 15 and 16 are very, very similar. However, they require 2 different public hearings. And so I'll turn it over to our Public Safety Director, who will handle the very short presentation. Maggie?
Yes, thank you, John. Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council members. Since the incorporation, the City of Paramount has utilized the Los Angeles County Health Department for inspections and other services related to health and sanitation. Chapters 8.04.010 and 8.04.040 of the Paramount Municipal Code incorporate by reference the Los Angeles County Health and Safety Codes as the health code for the city. To ensure that we are utilizing the most current version of the county code, we annually readopt it by reference. State law requires that a certain procedure be followed for adopting the county code by reference. The City Council must have a first reading of the ordinance and set a date for a public hearing on the ordinance. The first reading was conducted at the January 24th, 2023 City Council meeting, and the public hearing was set for this evening. It is recommended that the City Council read by title only, waive further reading, and introduce ordinance number 1168 and place it on the next regular agenda for adoption. Thank you.
Okay. Now I'll open the public hearing for this item. Are there any comments in favor, Heidi?
No, Madam Mayor, there are not.
Are there any comments in opposition, ma'am?
And none have been submitted in opposition either.
May I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved, Lemons. Second, Aguayo.
Heidi, may I have roll call, please?
Councilmember Delgadillo?
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons?
Yes.
Councilmember Olmos?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Aguayo?
Yes.
Mayor Quer Stallings?
Yes. Do my colleagues have any comments or questions? Is there a motion for this item?
I move we read by title only, waive further reading for ordinance number 1168 and place it on the next regular agenda for adoption.
May I have a second, please?
Second, sorry.
Heidi, may I have roll call, please?
Councilmember Delgadillo?
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons?
Yes.
Councilmember Olmos?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Aguayo?
Yes.
Mayor Quer Stallings?
Yes. Next is a public hearing on ordinance adopting Los Angeles County Traffic Code. John, may we have the report, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'll just handle this one. It's everything that Maggie said, but just change out the county traffic code for the county health and safety code.
Yes.
That concludes our presentation.
Thank you.
Now I'll open the public hearing for this item. Are there any comments in favor, Heidi?
No, Madam Mayor.
Are there any in opposition, please?
No, ma'am.
May I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Move we close public hearing.
Delgadillo, second.
Heidi, may I have roll call, please?
Councilmember Delgadillo?
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons?
Yes.
Councilmember Olmos?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Aguayo?
Yes.
Mayor Quer Stallings?
Yes. Do my colleagues have any comments or questions?
Move we read by title only, waive further reading, and introduce ordinance 1169, placed on the next regular agenda for adoption.
May I have a second, please?
Second, Aguayo.
May I have roll call, please, Heidi?
Councilmember Delgadillo?
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons? Councilmember Olmos?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Aguayo?
Yes.
Mayor Quer Stallings?
Yes. Our last public hearing is on an amendment to the city's annual action plan, or allocation plan. John, may I have the report, please?
Absolutely, Madam Mayor. As a recipient of federal HUD funds, we are required to bring back to the council any changes to the multi-year spending plan that was previously adopted by this council. Such is the case with the next item. We need to revise our spending plan to reflect the more than $1 million that we received from HUD last year. As you're about to hear, we'd like your approval on the plan to use this money for our homelessness programs. We're making incredible strides at addressing homelessness in our community, and this infusion of funds will only help our cause. So tonight, we're joined by our consultant, Mr. David Munoz from MDG Consultants, who put our plan together. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Munoz. Hi, David.
Good evening, and hello, Madam Mayor and all the council members. Pleasure to be here, especially on a night like this. My name, as he said, is David Munoz, consultant for the city with the HUD-funded programs. Tonight, we'll be speaking on the substantial amendment to the 21-22 action plan, which would incorporate the additional funds that the city received under the Home ARP allocation plan. To provide some additional background, in 2021, Congress passed the American Rescue Plan, which included $5 billion to be allocated to assist individuals or households that were homeless, at risk of homeless, and other vulnerable populations. The vehicle for administering those funds would be the Home Investment Partnerships Program, meaning that any grantee or participating jurisdiction that already received home funds, i.e. the City of Paramount, automatically was eligible for this one-time special grant that can be utilized to assist certain qualifying populations and for various eligible uses. The city in particular, of the $5 billion, received an award of $1,087,336. In order to incorporate that allocation of funds and distribute them, the city must complete what is known as a substantial amendment to its action plan to ensure that the appropriate citizen participation and engagement procedures were followed, which is why we're here today. As I had mentioned, as part of this program, there are two key requirements to be mindful of. The first being the qualifying populations that are served, or who the intended beneficiaries of the program are. As you can see here, there are 4 categories of qualifying populations that must be served through these programs. The first being individuals that are literally homeless. The second are those individuals or households that are fleeing or attempting to flee domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, stalking, or human trafficking. The third is individuals or households that are at risk of homelessness. And then for other populations, it could include households that would require this type of assistance to prevent a return to homelessness. This could include veterans that are in dire situations that would lose their home were it not for this assistance. The qualifying population requirements may vary slightly depending on the eligible activity that the city decides to move forward with. With respect to those eligible activities or eligible uses of funds, there are really 6 major activities or ways that the city could utilize these funds. The first would be the acquisition and development of non-congregate shelter. The second would be the development and or rehabilitation of affordable rental housing. The third would be providing supportive services such as street outreach and engagement services towards individuals that are out on the street, providing housing counseling, housing stabilization and relocation services, as well as any forms of financial assistance to ensure that those households, families, and individuals are able to remain in their house and prevent them from going back into homelessness. The fourth option would be tenant-based rental assistance, which, as it states in the name, is forms of short-term or medium-term rental assistance to those individuals or families, so long as they are individuals that are part of those qualifying populations. The fifth would be nonprofit operating and capacity building assistance. While the city certainly has great staff to implement these programs, tenant-based rental assistance, there are also opportunities to leverage some of the partnerships with nonprofit organizations who have a lot more of the experience to deal with the intricacies and the day-to-day needs of the homeless population. And so part of these funds can be utilized to ensure that some of their overhead costs are paid for to ensure that they're able to continue implementing these programs. And then finally, we know that there are some costs associated with your staff overseeing and implementing and administering these programs, and so that is the final eligible use of those funds. With respect to how the city decided to take the 6 eligible uses and the 4 qualifying populations, the city ultimately landed on investing a majority of its funds towards supportive services, which would be about 60% of its total allocation, or $652,402, being allocated towards those supportive services such as street outreach, engagement, housing counseling, and rental assistance. Those could be carried out via certain subrecipient partnerships with existing agencies or new agencies such as Family Promise of the South Bay, or contracting opportunities with other service providers in the area that you all see fit. Now, the other portion of the funds would also go towards nonprofit operating assistance, or a 5% of that could go towards assisting those agencies that are implementing the programs on behalf of the city. Then an additional 20%, or $217,467, would go towards tenant-based rental assistance directly to those beneficiaries. And then 15% would be utilized for administration and planning, which would be $163,100. It is important to note that the city did carry out, consultation and engagement with its community residents and stakeholders. And while there was, of course, demand for affordable housing and non-congregate shelter, given the limited amount of funds with $1 million, while it is a lot, to be able to meet the needs of the community, the city determined that this allocation of funds was the best way to create the most amount of impact to serve the greatest number of residents and still serve those qualifying populations. With respect to the process that has been carried out to date, the staff completed the 4 steps listed on this slide. There was consultation with stakeholders and residents to ensure that their input was taken into consideration so that we had an accurate assessment of the gap in needs. As a result, that helped inform the needs assessment and gaps analysis. Once we had a better understanding of what the community's needs were and the limited or resources that we had available, we prepared the draft allocation plan, which is presented to you today. And the draft allocation plan was made available to stakeholders and to the public for comment and review. And now we're here at the public hearing. So we're seeking approval to submit the allocation plan to HUD, which would be a substantial amendment to the 21-22 action plan. Upon your approval, we would be able to complete that process through the IDIS system. And finally, the recommended action. It is recommended that the City Council conduct a public hearing to receive comments from the citizens concerning the Home ARP allocation plan and authorize the city manager as designee to submit the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And it meets 2 of your city strategic outcomes. Number 1, safe community, and number 6, efficient, effective, and fiscally responsible. And I am available for questions if you have any.
I just have one.
Yes.
You know, I'm just curious. Before you do the allocation to HUD, is there an issue because of the number that LASA identified 180 people, and then CityNet identified 59 homeless in the city, so there's a big difference. Does that become an issue because we have 2 different numbers?
With respect to projections of how many homeless individuals there are?
Right. I mean, or to any of the data or plans, or it's not that big of a difference, but there is a difference.
Absolutely. That certainly could influence the gap or needs assessment. However, in terms of the allocation plan, we're really setting goals in terms of the number of individuals we would want to prevent from becoming homeless, or individuals that are already homeless, and how many of those individuals did we assist.
Got it.
And so that's really the goals and the benchmarks that we'd be tracking. In terms of how many homeless individuals there are, I mean, there are lots of reports regarding the discrepancies between point in time, effectiveness, and varying data sources, but we can certainly look into that further.
I'm just curious if it changes anything, but you're saying it's kind of going forward to say this is the plan, whether it be 180 or 59, we're moving forward with a proactive plan to help these people.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. That makes sense. Okay.
Anyone else? No? Okay, now I'll open the public hearing for this item. Are there any comments in favor, Heidi?
No, ma'am.
Are there any comments in opposition?
No. None in opposition either.
Thank you. May I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
May I have roll call, please, Heidi?
Councilmember Delgadillo?
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons?
Yes.
Councilmember Olmos?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Aguayo?
Yes.
Mayor Quer Stallings?
Yes. Do my colleagues have any questions or comments?
No, but I'll move the item, Madam Mayor.
Okay, may I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Well, Heidi, may I have a
Coun-
roll call, please?
Councilmember Delgadillo?
Yes.
Councilmember Lemons?
Yes.
Councilmember Olmos?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Aguayo?
Yes.
Mayor Quer Stallings?
Yes. Next is the resolution 23005, authorizing membership in the Gateway Cities Affordable Housing Trust. John, may we have the report, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Last month you heard a very extensive presentation from the Gateway Cities COG about the new housing trust that the COG is forming. Once they establish this, the trust will provide funds for cities in the Gateway COG region to help meet our housing needs. Already, cities in the South Bay COG and the San Gabriel Valley COG have taken advantage of this tool after these COGs formed their housing trusts. An example of this is the tiny home villages that the City Council visited in the cities of Baldwin Park and Montebello. Both of these housing projects were funded through the San Gabriel Valley COG's Housing Trust Fund. So tonight, we'd like your approval on a resolution authorizing us to join this proposed housing trust with the Gateway Cities COG. So with that, I'll turn it over to our Assistant Planning Director, Mr. John King, who will handle the item. John?
Thank you. Thank you, John. Thank you, Mayor Claire Stallings, and council members. So as John mentioned, last month we had a very persuasive presentation by the folks from the Gateway Cities COG, Council of Governments. about joining this trust. And just a little background, more so for our city. Why should we join? And really, as you know, the state is pressuring cities and jurisdictions up and down to develop more affordable housing. There's a huge need. We don't have enough. It's not available. It's not affordable. We had a very efficient tool. Our best tool was the Paramount Redevelopment Agency. And as you know, just a little over 10 years ago in 2012, that went away. That was eliminated when a court upheld or sided with the then Governor Jerry Brown. So that source of funding for affordable housing is gone. So cities now have to reinvent themselves to find new ways to develop this affordable housing. And an affordable housing trust fund is one such way. The housing element that the City Council adopted about a year ago responded to this, the requirement for the city to develop 364 units, housing units, and that's part of the RHNA process, the Regional Housing Needs Assessment. So every city has to come up with or plan for and encourage the development of these housing units. Of that 364, about half, 183, a little more than half are required to be affordable units. So you'll see here 92 have to be very low income, 43 would have to be low income, and 48 moderate income, and that's all based on the average, the median income of this region, the Los Angeles, Long Beach area. And more so in this cycle, 2021 to 2029, the state is highly enforcing this. So there's a new compliance division of the State Department of Housing and Community Development. So we're looking at a trust, and this is exactly the same information from last month, but basically it's a source to finance the preservation and production of affordable housing, and it's be done through a joint powers authority. So the neighboring cities in the subregion would join together and together be more efficient to get some more funding for affordable housing. So sources would include local, state, and federal money, and actually private funds as well. More cities involved will leverage more funds, reducing overhead costs. And a foundation of this trust is local control, and that's, as we know, that is a priority for our city and basically all the cities in California. Local control. The trust will not regulate our own land use, will not step into our zoning. And the trust would only support a housing development if the city council, if the community supports that housing development. So there are a lot of protections in the proposed bylaws. And this is the timeline that the COG provided last month, and it all leads up to May as the kickoff board meeting. Last night, our city of Artesia became the first member of the trust. So if you were to approve this evening, Paramount would be the second city in this area. The COG folks are also this evening in Long Beach and Lakewood. So we expect Lakewood and Long Beach to join next month. So there is, as mentioned last month, there is a scaled annual fee based on city population. So actually the COG would be responsible for the first year, and that's because there's some seed money from Los Angeles County to get it going the first year. But beginning in July of 2024, member cities would contribute an annual administrative fee based on, again, population. Since Paramount's population is around 53,000, that takes us to $15,000 a year the first year. And that would arise based on the consumer price index. So with that, we're recommending that you adopt the resolution, and that would authorize the mayor to execute the trust joint exercise of powers agreement. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions? Okay. No one has any comments? Is there a motion for this item?
So moved.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Heidi, may I have roll call, please?
Councilmember Delgadillo?
Yes.
Councilmember Lemmons? Yes. Councilmember Olmos?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Aguayo?
Yes.
Mayor Quer Stallings?
Yes. Next is a bikeway license agreement with the LA Metro for the West Santa Ana Branch Bikeway Phase 2 project. John, may we have the report, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor, we're getting closer, inch by inch, to building the walking and bike trail through town. It involves a significant amount of planning, funding, and of course, permission to lease the property, since we don't own the property where the walking and bike trail will eventually be built. We have to lease that land. So before you tonight for approval is one such lease that Adriana Figueroa, our Public Works Director, will go over, as well as a status update of the overall project, where we stand. Adriana?
Thank you, John. Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. As a way of background, our bikeway trail project will essentially connect the LA River to the San Gabriel River through the cities of Paramount and Bellflower. The project is broken up into 4 phases. All 4 phases follow the railroad tracks that run diagonally through the city, and it's a combination of LADWP, Caltrans, Edison, and Metro utility right-of-ways. Phase 1 was completed years ago and runs from Lakewood Boulevard westbound to Somerset Boulevard. Phase 2 runs from Somerset Boulevard to Rosecrans Avenue through Paramount Park. The design for this phase has already been completed, and as a reminder, this is the section that recently received funding from California State Assembly Speaker Rendon, totaling $2 million. Phase 3 runs from Rosecrans Avenue at Paramount Boulevard to Garfield Avenue, and this phase received funding for design and construction from the California Rivers and Mountains Conservancy, and the project is currently in the design phase. This section includes a railroad crossing which needs to be coordinated with Union Pacific and may take some additional time. Lastly, Phase 4 covers Garfield Avenue all the way to the LA River, and this section received funding for design and construction from the California Natural Resources Agency and is currently in the design phase. As you can see, breaking this up into phases allowed us to be more successful in obtaining grant funding for the project. The entire length of our bikeway trail is roughly 2.3 miles and will include various improvements such as LED pedestrian lighting, fencing, benches, and landscaping. The agenda report before you today focuses on a small portion within Phase 2, located at Paramount Park. For reference, on the left side of this image is the intersection of Paramount Boulevard and Rosecrans Avenue, and on the right side, you'll see Paramount High School. This section in red is owned by Metro. The project requires an agreement with Metro for construction along this particular section. The initial term of the agreement is for 10 years, but this can later be extended administratively for additional years. Staff is currently in the process of seeking a similar agreement with LADWP for the remaining areas within this particular phase, and that has actually been a very long and difficult process that has taken almost 2 years. But we're getting closer and hope to have an agreement with them within the next few months. We anticipate construction on this phase to begin sometime this fall. That concludes, with that, it is recommended that the City Council approve the bikeway license agreement between the City of Paramount and Metro for the West Santa Ana Branch Bikeway Trail Phase 2 and authorize the mayor or her designee to execute the agreement. That concludes my presentation, but I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Do my colleagues have any questions or comments? Okay. Is there a motion for this item?
So moved.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Heidi, may I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Delgadillo?
Yes.
Councilmember Lemmons?
Yes.
Councilmember Olmos?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Aguayo?
Yes.
Mayor Quer Stallings?
Yes. Next is the annual update on the program partner agreement with our independent youth sport leagues. John, may we have the report, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor, this last item is our annual update on the youth athletic leagues and a status on their compliance with the program partner agreement. As you may recall, we have 3 independently operated youth athletic leagues in town offering a variety of youth sports. And this is in addition to the youth sports program offered by YMCA, as well as the city's growing youth sports program. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. David Johnson, our Community Services Director, who will walk you through the item. Dave?
Thank you, John. Mayor and council members, first of all, happy Valentine's Day.
Thank
So, as John mentioned, we're going to go over the program partner agreement. This program partner agreement was originally approved by the city council back in March of 2020. Then we all know what happened at that, COVID hit. But the basis of the program partner agreement is that it defined what the city's required to do to make sure these leagues operate and what the leagues themselves are required to do to make sure they operate. The intent is to ensure that the leagues are operating correctly and that they're financially transparent. If they fail to meet the requirements of the program partner agreement, it's my job to evaluate that and then communicate that information to the Parks and Rec Commission and then to the City Council. We did do a program partner refresher for the youth leagues back in December of 2021 to remind them what the requirements are as we started to come out of COVID. The part of the requirements of the program partner agreement is that we do provide this annual report, which is what we're doing tonight on the status and operation of these leagues. We're going to start with PYSO, our Paramount Youth Soccer Organization. They had their recreation season this past March to June in 2022. Now all the leagues, again, they're coming out of COVID, so you'll see that their numbers are diminished. So that was difficult in all the leagues. But PYSO is doing pretty well here. They had 189 participants. 80% of them were either POSD or permanent residents, so they exceeded our requirement of 75%. They did request or have 11 of their members request youth sports scholarships, and we did award those. They were the first youth league to reach out and coordinate with the accountant. Their 501c is in good standing with the Franchise Tax Board, Secretary of State, and they're in good standing with the IRS as well. They did file their taxes back in 2021, which was their last reporting year. They are currently working with the accountant to learn how to enter all the information on the QuickBooks and train their board on how to use that. West Coast Rebels, their season is in fall. So they last participated, ran their season from September to December 2022. They had 61 participants. 76% of those were POSD or Paramount. So again, they met our qualifications of 75%. They had 17 youth sports scholarships awarded, so that's fantastic. This is a very expensive sport, and it's difficult for families to participate, so the youth sports scholarship program is very helpful. Now, they were terminated, their nonprofit status was terminated with the Franchise Tax Board. What's going on here is that the last couple of years, they did not file their appropriate tax forms. This is what the accountant is now helping them with. It's a very simple form, and the accountant's walking them through that. So this is going to be an easy fix. The accountant will take care of this, and they'll get back into good standing. It was discovered they did not have an active 501c3 with the IRS. The accountant is also working with them to do this. So they're actively engaged with the accountant, and it's moving forward, so we're happy. At their next steps after working on all these issues with their these agencies is they're also getting training on QuickBooks and how to track their income and their expenses and have all the board members available to learn how to do that. So everything should be fine there. This is the one that's causing some grief. The Paramount Junior Athletic Association, PAA, they did have their recreation season back in April to June 2022. They had 87 participants. This is probably an all-time low. 86% were part of POSD or Paramount residents, so that's very good. They have not had an active 501c with the IRS since 2010. So this probably goes back all the way to 2007 when they stopped reporting their taxes to the IRS. So basically with the IRS, they just get wiped off the books. And same thing with Secretary of State, Franchise Tax Board. They don't exist anymore. It's been so long since they've submitted paperwork to these agencies that they don't exist anymore according to their records. The accountant is telling us if you want to rectify the 501c3 under the name PAA, it's a difficult process. It's around $12,000. We're not recommending that. The accountant suggests that we have this organization apply under a new name, which would cost about $1,200, similar to what he's doing with the West Coast Rebels. And so that's what we're recommending that we do. The other problems that we're having is, again, the two prior leagues met with the accountant. They're making progress. We have not had any real progress with this youth league in meeting with the accountant and getting their financial information provided to the accountant so he can review it and assist them. So we originally, through a Zoom meeting, they did meet with the accountant back in August of 2022. They were asked by the accountant to provide documentation of their finances. That never was provided. They are currently now in violation of our program partner agreement, and that can result in suspension of all future permits, in this case, potentially jeopardizing this current spring season. So we saw this coming. We saw that there was an issue. We did take this back to our Parks and Rec Commission in November 15th of 2022, told them, hey, there's some problems here. We didn't see any of those issues rectified. We took it back to the Parks and Rec Commission in January 18th, 2023 as part of our annual update that we have to go to the commission first, and we told them their spring season is definitely in jeopardy. This is our outreach so far to PGAA. We've had we had 3 Zoom meetings scheduled with the accountant. All 3 of them were not met in June and July. They didn't call, say I can't make it. They were just no-shows. So what we did at that time is that we put their fall permits on hold and said, you guys, you're not gonna have a fall season until you meet with the accountant. The vice president, not the president, stepped up and said, hey, I'll meet with the accountant, and he did so in August. The accountant again asked for the financial records. The vice president, though, does not have access to those. Only the president has access to those. So the vice president, earnest as he may be to help, was not able to make much progress. So we're still stuck in that situation that they're not providing their financial data to the accountant. Our communication, staff communication, and as well as the accountant, since August 2022 with PGAA, we've made 6 phone calls, 3 to the president, 3 to the vice president. We've left messages. We've had 2 live phone conversations with them and staff. We've sent 5 text messages to the president and vice president with very little response. We've sent 7 emails to the president and vice president asking for follow-up. And typically what we're seeing from the president is it's weeks, it's days, we don't get a response right away. And essentially he's told us he doesn't have the time for this. We've had 5 emails to the president, also from the accountant, with no response. So I'm painting a very bad picture here. It is not the city's desire to see this program or this league stop. In fact, it's quite the opposite. We want this program to run. We want the kids to play baseball, but we need this organization to function correctly and follow the program partner agreement. So, and again, the big part of this is that they have to be financially transparent, and they're not meeting the requirements of the PPA. The vice president, though, has reached out to us, and there was some movement today. So the vice president and some parents, I guess, met with the president of the league, telling them to step aside. The president indicated that he didn't want to step aside right away. He wanted to see this through. Well, he's the one that's not communicating. He's not giving us the financial information. So later this afternoon, we did hear from the vice president that the president is now willing to step aside and let the league start anew. And that's essentially what we're going to have to do. They are not a functioning 501c3. There is no board, by the way. There is the president and a vice president, and the vice president was appointed by the president. There's no board. There's no secretary. There's no treasurer. They're not following their own bylaws. So they're in a world of hurt. So with the news that the vice president said that the president's willing to step aside, we're going to reach out to the vice president, verify these communications, make sure they are real and the president has made this choice. We will work with this group of parents and the current vice president to form a temporary new PGAA board, or whatever name we're going to call them. So we're ready to move right now. We'll sit down with them. We'll form a board. And at some point, they will have to have an election. They got to follow their bylaws. But right now, we need a temporary board, and we're willing to then, as soon as that temporary board forms, start communication with the accountant. Boom, we open up those spring permits, and this league will run. So this is all happening later today, and so it's good news. But that's kind of where we're at, and it's a receive and file report. But I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Do my colleagues have any comments or questions?
I just have one.
Yes, Brenda.
And thank you, Dave, for working so hard on this, because I know you and Rebecca have been all over this. But I just want to make sure there's postings that their registration is happening. And I know, and I don't know if parents are submitting money. So, is there any way that we could just check to see, and with the new vice president, if that's actually happening? Was that? money in the past or money in the future, just so there's no,
Well-
there's transparency in that.
We did ask the question of the Vice
Okay, good.
President. Rebecca asked it. He said that the money from registration, current registration, is supposed to be going into an account. It's supposed to be a dedicated PWA account. We haven't seen that. We're not aware that. We're trusting that that does exist.
Okay.
So as we make this transition, we're going to do everything we can to assist the Vice President and this new board to make sure they have access to all financial information and all revenue.
Thank you.
And I just want to reiterate to the council, it was a very wise decision a couple years ago for this council to adopt the idea of a program partnership agreement for these clubs to sign, because this is exactly what it was intended for when you have a group that's not responding, that is, we don't know what they're doing with the money. It really helps us crack down on this type of behavior so that it doesn't reflect on the city as being partnering with this group and then something horrible happens. So thank you again for hanging in there with the program partnership agreement when we did that a couple of years ago, because this is exactly what it was intended for.
So John Kavanaugh, this is just a receive and file.
This is just a receive and file, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. We'll continue. Now it's time for the city council member reports. We'll start with Council Member Delagio. I try it, Annette.
Close. Of course, Madam Mayor. Well, Madam Mayor, I attended the League of California Cities New Mayors and Council Members Academy. The session I attended was titled Developing an Effective City Council and City Manager Team, the Key to Good Governance and City Success. The following is what I take away to help me do my job better. During this session, I learned that successful communities require highly effective governance and management. I was further advised to understand the roles of the City Council governing body, staff, and city manager. After the session, I personally debriefed and I asked myself, what are we doing to make Paramount a better place to live? And my conclusion was, in Paramount, we strive for excellence and we strive for perfection. And that is all. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Olmos?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Couple Saturdays, my colleagues and I did what we call a goal-setting meeting with our staff. And I just have to say that it was just so nice to see that our goals of my colleagues and the staff were right on tune. I think what they want for the residents is exactly what we want for the residents. There was no back and forth. I think the alignment was really great. I think we're all on the same page. So I really look forward to 2023 and 2024 and all of our goals just come to a successful ending. And I'm sure my colleagues definitely agree with that.
Agreed. Yes.
I want to say, I think that the city of Paramount has become like this baseball, football, ice hockey kind of city. We're getting very popular now that the LA Kings are here. You guys all know that we had the Dodgers here as well. I just want to say thank you to the Dodgers Foundation, Bank of America, and Jack in the Box for choosing Paramount. We had 3 Dodgers here. It was Rojas, Bickford, and Pipiet. We had some of the LA County sheriffs out there. Actually, the 2 that are in the room, we got to sit there with the Dodgers. It was kind of cool, right? It's good. We got some great pictures. So thanks, Dodgers Foundation, for thinking of Paramount. On February 7th, John and I attended the Los Angeles County Commission's Local Government Services. We had a great presentation from our own city manager who talked about our pilot roundabout to some other elected officials from other cities. And I think from that presentation, the commission decided that we're going to write a letter to our legislators and supervisors to start asking for funding for these roundabout pilots and what we're doing, because it's costing us money. So we're going to need support. So thank you, John, for coming and attending. You did a great job. This weekend, I attended my second class, my WELL Fellowship. So it's the WELL Education for Latino Leaders Fellowship session. It was up in Tehachapi. I didn't even know where that was, but I learned. It's actually the Cesar Chavez National Monument. Again, I didn't know that. And we were greeted by Cesar Chavez's son, Paul Chavez, who gave us a tour of the facility. And we talked about groundwater, like who does it belong to? Does it belong to like agriculture? Does it belong to environment? Does it belong to urban? It's just really interesting how everybody's fighting for water, you know, and I think it's kind of interesting that, and this is just a fact, that 50% of the water goes to environment, which goes straight out to the ocean, which is a huge issue. So anyways, again, that was my report, and that's all I got, Madam Mayor.
I was waiting for your report for the Dodgers.
Yes, go Dodgers. Had to be there. My mom would not forgive me if I did not take her to that.
I know Vice Mayor Aguayo and I talked about that. We can't wait for Councilmember Olmos's report about the Dodgers that came, because we were at the conference and we just barely made it back. But anyway, thank you for that.
Of course.
Councilmember Peggy Lemons, please.
Madam Mayor, I have nothing to add to my colleague's report. Thank you.
Okay. Vice Mayor Aguayo, please.
Okay, so I was able to go to the snacks and chats with the mayor, and thank you to the residents that came out. I mean, it really was a good turnout, and there was, it really served its purpose. We saw residents that we had not seen at some of the other, meetings, and they expressed some concerns that to the mayor and I that I think we've already told staff. What some of those issues were to make sure that our residents get taken care of. So it was really, really great, a great event. So so again, thank you to the residents. That's why we have these type of things, so you can come out and let us know what your concerns are. That is all I have.
Okay. Well, I did some of the similar things that my colleagues did. We did attend a conference, and I did attend the snack and chat with the mayor, and we did have several residents. I was really surprised. And I did attend last Friday night market. It was very cold outside, and my husband invited me to go. He said, let's go. It's kind of a chilly night, but I think it would be a great night to go out to the market. And there were several residents. I was very impressed. And staff was passing out red roses. So thank you, David, for your staff for passing out those beautiful red roses. And I did attend the Valentine's dance with the seniors. And as I mentioned, Norma and I had to dance, of course, and I had other seniors. And I also attended the cookies. We were making cookies, but actually we were making little roses with the seniors a couple days prior. So I had an enjoyable time with them. And I look forward to continuing going and dancing with Norma. But anyway, and also, we did have our city council summit, and it was very productive, and as council member almost mentioned. So anyway, and then the seniors did share with me, David, that they're having the new folk Oracle classes, seniors, and they are very excited. So approximately how many seniors do you have attending, sir? How many?
15.
50 already?
15.
Oh, 15.
15,
I was
yes.
going to say 50. Oh, my God. Okay. 15, but still, that's quite a bit. Okay. So I look forward to them performing. I can't wait. Anyway, that's all I have for tonight. Mr. City Manager, are there any comments from staff?
Yes, Madam Mayor, just two. The first one is Councilmember almost mentioned the affiliation with LA Kings now that they're here in town. And it just goes to show you how we repurposed that facility at Paramount Park. And all the planets aligned. The Kings came to town. We turned it in from a soccer pitch type of thing. We were able just to turn it around to a hockey ball and started a hockey league for kids. And then the LA Kings came out. So it's just wonderful how that worked out. Repurposing a facility at our park really worked. Speaking of parks, I wanted to have Mr. Johnson give just a brief update on how it's coming with our private security that has been patrolling our parks at night. We mentioned this to you last year that we're going to experiment with this. We know of a couple of other cities in our area that are doing this. It's just, again, supplementing the services that we get from the Sheriff's Department. to areas where it's needed most. So Dave, if you can just give a brief update on how it's coming.
Thank you, John. So we contracted this out about 8-9 months ago. Formerly, we did park supervision with recreation staff. So these are usually young men. Again, this is not their training. This is not what they do. So what they do is they go around to the parks. They monitor activity on the parks. They open up, turn on ball field lights and turn them off for the youth leagues. They open and close restrooms. And it became very difficult for us to, with our staffing levels, that we could not maintain that. And it became necessary that we had to look at contracting it out. The contracting actually is very good. So what you have is a uniformed presence on the park after hours, doing those same things, those same services, turning the lights on and off and closing and opening bathrooms. And they're trained. They're trained security guards. So that is very nice. It's been very good. I think we've only had one need for that security guard to contact public safety for the sheriff's to come out about a month ago. There was a large group drinking at the park in All-American. And so it's actually been pretty effective. So we are going to be evaluating it. We are coming up on the year contract in June. So we'll be looking at that contract to see if, evaluating it, see how we want to proceed. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, but it's working really well.
I have a question, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
So I would assume, even though it's only been, would you say 6-7 months, that maybe the uniformed security guards are having an impact, because I know the reason that we did this is we were having all kinds of issues reported about things going on at the parks. So other than the opening and closing of the facilities, do they also do patrols?
Well, part of when they're going to those parks, they're essentially doing patrols. So if they see anything, they will report that. So yeah, I mean, in between, if there's time, so you drive from park to park to park, doing the things that we need them to do. So they're evaluating what's happening in those parks. When there's extra time, they'll hit those parks again and see what's going on. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it answers my question. I guess I just understood that I didn't realize that took up so much time. So how many people are doing security when you say they go from park to park to park? So is it just one person
Yes.
doing all the facilities, and then they're still doing the park patrols too?
Well, yes. So it's one security guard, and he will go from park to park. And while he's there turning on the lights for the teams or locking a bathroom, he's driving through the entire park and reporting anything that he sees that's not correct. I mean, so actually on the park, they'll approach people if there's a park that you're not allowed to have a dog. They'll contact that resident and let them know what the park rules are, our code. On weekends, they are out there, and actually we had a really good year with issues on the park over the summer. So we were happy about that, and that's their job. The weekends is mostly just park patrols. So they're there to check for permits for jumpers. They're there to check for permits for shelters, and they're just working that park to make sure everything's going right.
So weekends are all for patrol, is that what you said, and not opening and closing facilities?
Well, they'll again, during the weekday, it's heavily focused on dealing with the permits we have and shutting down bathrooms. On the weekends, it's a little more broad. You're just dealing with permits for shelters and jumpers, and they will close the bathrooms at the end of the day. But a lot of their time is just spent patrolling that park and making sure everything's okay.
Okay, because that's the part I want to hear, because at least my understanding when we started this, and please correct me, council or staff, but I didn't note that there was any issue with getting the facilities opened and the facilities closed. It was more that the sheriff's services, was not a priority call in the parks, and there's drinking going on here, there's pot smoking going on here, and this, so I thought it was more about patrol than opening and closing facilities. So I appreciate the fact that, he only had to do one call in. I guess I'm just curious about that effectiveness, and that would probably come from, are we getting reports, John, of still trouble going on, or is that uniform presence enough in itself?
I'm not hearing from residents. I'm not hearing from public safety, and that's a very good sign.
Yes, I agree with that. That's what I was wondering, because it's not exactly the purpose that I thought it was, but it seems to be having an impact nonetheless.
It's helpful to have a uniformed, trained presence on the park.
Thank you.
That it, John? Okay. Thank you. Before going into closed session, I will recess the city council meeting and call to order the meeting of the assessor agency for the Paramount Redevelopment Agency. Heidi, may I have a roll call of council members, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Councilmember Delgadillo. Councilmember Lemmons.
Here.
Councilmember Olmos.
Here.
Vice Mayor Aguayo.
Here.
Mayor Quer Stallings.
Here. Are there any public comments?
No, ma'am.
May I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
Second. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Delgadillo.
Yes.
Councilmember Lemmons.
Yes.
Councilmember Olmos.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Aguayo.
Yes.
Mayor Quer Stallings.
Yes. The assessor agency meeting is adjourned to a meeting on March 14, 2023 at 6 o'clock. Now I'll call to order the city council meeting back to order, and we will recess into closed session. Mr. City Manager, will you please announce the closed session items?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'd be happy to. Let's put my glasses on here. Tonight, we are going into closed session for two items. The first one is for a conference with real property negotiators. Government Code 54956.8 allows for this. One property, 15538 Colorado Avenue. Agency negotiator is the city manager. Negotiating parties is the city of Paramount. And under negotiation is the price and terms of payment. The second item in closed session is the public employee performance evaluation for the city manager pursuant to Government Code Section 54957B1.